Hey everybody, Metal Jesus here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a fancy, new, expensive add-on for your PC Engine or your TurboGrafx-16. It is called the Super HD System3 PRO by TerraOnion. Now, this is not to be confused with the cheaper release that they had a couple years ago called the Super SD System3. This is the Super HD System3 PRO. And basically, this is kind of the next generation, the next evolution of that add-on. And I have to say that while this is an expensive add-on, and it's not going to be for everybody, it does a lot. So what does it do? Well, it uses FPGA to recreate or emulate a CD-ROM attachment that you would put on the back of, your PC Engine or your TurboGrafx-16. So basically it's an optical drive emulator, very similar to the mode that they created a while back for the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast. So what you do is you put your micro SD card inside there, and that has your disk images or your ROMs, and it'll play regular CD-ROM games, Super CD games, the arcade enhanced CD-ROM games, the regular Q card games, and also the SuperGrafx games. But that's not it. It also taps into the digital output of the audio and the video from the back of the console, and then it outputs it in HD. So it'll actually output in 480p or 720p. And so it really attempts to be the all-in-one solution for fans of, again, the PC Engine or the TurboGrafx. And I have to say, it's doing a lot there, but again, that's the reason why this thing is, so expensive at $275, and that's before shipping. So this is not a cheap product. But let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper into this because there is a lot going on here. To get started using this, it's really easy. If you have a original PC Engine like you see here, it just snaps on the back of it and it uses the power from the console. So it's really plug and play. However, if you have a TurboGrafx-16, well, the back of that console is just a little bit larger than the PC Engine. And so in order to get this to fit on the back, you do have to loosen the screws a little bit, but then it functions exactly the same. Taking a look at the back of it, notice that there's an HDMI out, which is probably what most people are going to use. That's certainly what I'm going to use. But you'll also see there an AV multi-out that will do RGB output, which is pretty cool because, again, it's getting it digitally from the expansion port. So that looks fantastic too. You'll also see that there is a USB port there. Now they say that is for developers, probably to get access to the FPGA chip that's in there. So potentially you could add other cores on here, maybe support other retro gaming systems, which is a pretty nice feature. And notice that it has a physical reset button on it. I love this. It's so convenient. So tap it once and it just restarts the game. Hold it down for 3 seconds and it takes you back to the main menu. It's so convenient, but you also can do it on the controller just as you would expect. But again, I love that physical button. In the main menu, you'll see any games that you've put on your micro SD card or any folders that you might be sorting them by. That's what I'm doing right there. And then you hit the option button on the controller to bring up, the options. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these because for the most part, it's pretty self-explanatory, but you can see what they are here. You can change the way that the game list is displayed either by list or they do have a cover art option there. Notice it says skip CD-ROM, press run. So that's enabled by default. Very handy because it basically just gets you into the game faster. Seek time emulation, I believe, is probably where they are trying to more accurately emulate a CD-ROM drive to probably fix some timing issues or some compatibility issues. Now, I did try this with some games that were giving me a little bit of trouble and it didn't seem to help, but it's going to be on a per game basis. Select CD-ROM system card is an option that you're probably going to want to have to go into because depending on some of these games, it will require a specific system card. Now, by default, this does come and run with certain ones that they're able to ship with, but not all of them. So you'll probably be out on the internet trying to get some of the others, but just know that that is there. Video options here, some pretty standard stuff. I didn't really mess around with this too much. I mean, you can go back and forth between different resolutions. For me, I'm just gonna keep this in 720p. That works and looks great on my 4K television. And of course you have scan lines and a bunch of options there. And I think they look pretty good, but I never use these. I always turn them on to kind of see what it looks like. And I'm always like, yeah, that looks pretty cool. But then I never leave it on. But maybe some of you out there do. It's just, I guess it's a nice feature to have. It's one that you kind of need to have because, again, some people like it and prefer it. And then you have the user interface theme, which lets you cycle through the different looks of the main menu. So you can choose the specific PC Engine version or TurboGrafx that you have, or maybe just one that you prefer. It's a nice touch. I really do like the menu on this. It's very easy to navigate. It's quick. Easy to read. I dig it. And then I just threw a ton of games at this. I just went crazy. And I've said it before, but one of the most fun that you can have is just taking a look at random PC Engine games that we did not get in North America, because while the TurboGrafx was released in the US and was, I'm not going to say it was popular, although my roommate in college had one. But, I think it's pretty safe to say that it was not a huge hit in the US, but it was a huge hit in Japan. And so there are so many games to check out that we just never got. And there are just a ton of shooters. I mean, it was the era of shoot 'em ups for sure. And so many great ones came out on the PC Engine. And so again, half the time I don't even know the actual name of the game. I can't really pronounce it sometimes, but I don't care, because the nice thing is that for the most part, you don't have to know Japanese to play these games and enjoy them. And sometimes you even run across a game where it's like, wait, is this a shooter that has poop in it? What is going on here? This is hilarious. And so, yeah, you're playing a bunch of PC Engine games and, a bunch of HuCard games, as well as the CD games. And I was really impressed with the CD games, actually. They seem to load very quick. It's nice because actually the console itself shows you when it's accessing the virtual CD-ROM drive, so you kind of know it's working. You see the light there blinking as it's accessing, which again, I thought that was a pretty nice touch. Here are a couple of the SuperGrafx games running on this, and I have to say, actually, the SuperGrafx is such an interesting console. It's such a bummer that it never quite took off, because I do think it's one of the coolest looking consoles ever made. But sadly, it only had like 5 games released for it, so it's not a huge deal that this supports it, but it is cool. I also threw a couple of the arcade card enhanced games at it, and as you would expect, they worked fine. Again, it's just really nice that this thing seems to support pretty much every variation that you would expect. And I probably threw maybe 20 or 30 games at this, and for the most part, actually, a lot of them worked just as you would expect. I did run into some weird crashes occasionally, and what was weird about it is that the games would crash, every once in a while, like a specific game would crash, but then I would restart the unit and I wouldn't be able to necessarily get it to crash in the same spot. But then other games would just work fine for hours on end. So, again, they are very active in updating the firmware. As of the release of this, there was already a big firmware update. So it's something that maybe as time goes on and certain games are reported as maybe having problems with it, that they can potentially fix that. And there might be an issue when it comes to certain games and syncing the video and the audio, specifically in full motion video games. So you see the Sherlock Holmes game here, and the audio is not synced.
They are my eyes and ears in the streets of London, unquestionably a tremendous asset in our work. They will help us in our investigations if they can.
And this is a game where I went into the options and messed with the seek time emulation to see if that was maybe the issue, but it didn't fix it. And then I tried some other games. You see It Came from the Desert here, and while the syncing would appear to be better, well, then I would get some CD stuttering.
Now listen up. You want the girl, you want want knowledge or you want strength? Now what's it gonna be? You probably want the girl, right? Want the girl, right? They usually do.
But this is not the case across every CD-based game, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on. I don't know if this type of stuff can be fixed in a firmware upgrade, but I just wanted to mention it. The other thing about this that I'm not really crazy about is the blue plastic. I think it's a really odd choice for them to choose this see-through blue plastic when it really doesn't match any versions of the PC Engine or the TurboGrafx-16. It's a really weird choice, especially when the previous version I thought actually looked pretty cool because it was kind of like a smoky look to it. It just kind of fit with the console better. It's not a big deal at all. I mean, some of you might even be just rolling your eyes and I'm complaining about that, but I guess if I had my choice, I would not have chose this plastic blue look to it. It seems odd. And then there is the price. Listen, from the manufacturer, this is $275, and that is before shipping. Most of the resellers, the official resellers of this, have it over $300. That is a lot of money. And you know, this is not going to be for everybody. The comments on this video are going to be filled with people saying, just get a Mister, just emulate it on the PC. You know, there are a bunch of other solutions out there. Why would you get this? And you know what? They're totally right. This is for a very specific person who is an enthusiast for the PC Engine and the TurboGrafx-16, playing these games on the actual console. It's not going to be for everybody, but it does a lot, and I think it's way better than the previous version of this, simply because it supports the SuperGrafx system, it has the HDMI out, it just has more options. And so yes, it's expensive, but it's also pretty cool. And if you'd like to know more about this, I'll put a link down in the video description below. And I do want to thank TerraOnion for sending me a review unit. And as always, I want to thank you for watching my channel, thank you for subscribing, and take care.